Chapter 1: The Breakthrough. Dr. Alicia Ruiz blinked rapidly, trying to force her exhausted eyes to focus on the streams of data flooding the monitor in front of her. She took a long sip of the stale coffee sitting on the desk, grimacing at the acrid taste. It was well past midnight, and the lab was empty except for her and her research partner, Dr. Hiro Nakamura. They had been taking turns monitoring the quantum tunneling experiment for the past 72 sleepless hours. Alicia leaned back in her chair, stretching her stiff limbs. She glanced over at Hiro, slumped on a ratty couch in the corner. His eyes were closed behind large glasses, arms crossed over his slight frame. Alicia felt a swell of fondness for her colleague. They made an unlikely pair, the brash Latina theoretical physicist and the neat reserved Japanese-American engineer. But their shared passion for unraveling the mysteries of the quantum world had brought them together. When Alicia had first proposed trying to create a stable, controllable wormhole in space-time, the physics community had written her off as a crackpot. Quantum tunneling, the phenomenon where particles vanish from one location and instantly materialize in another, had been theorized but never proven at larger scales. But Hiro had seen the creative spark in Alicia's unconventional thinking. He was the one who had designed the intricate quantum-scale laboratory, dubbed the Cradle, that was enabling them to inch closer to their goal each day. A harsh beep from the monitor jerked Alicia's attention back to the present. A simulation was complete. She sat up, fully alert, and initiated the next one. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she input variations to the parameters, feeling that unique researcher's mix of excitement and apprehension that came with exploring the unknown. Hiro stirred on the couch. "Another trial?" he asked groggily. "I've got a good feeling about this run," Alicia said, eyes fixed on the screen. The cradle hummed around them as the powerful electromagnets manipulated the quantum field within the device's chamber. The monitors displayed streams of figures and complex 3D models as the software crunched through calculations. Alicia's leg jiggled impatiently as the progress bar inched forward. "Come on," she muttered under her breath. Hiro came to stand behind her, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. Suddenly, a loud ding signaled the end of the simulation. Alicia's eyes widened, and she heard Hiro's sharp intake of breath. According to the monitors, a stable, traversable wormhole had manifested inside the cradle during the quantum field test. "Run it again," Alicia ordered, her fatigue forgotten. Hiro rushed to comply, his fingers dancing across the controls as he initiated another trial. Again, the monitors showed the unmistakable eye-shaped signature of an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole, opening like a gaping mouth within the quantum field. "It's real! You did it!" breathed Hiro. Alicia let out an incredulous laugh, rising from her chair to pace back and forth. "Do you know what this means?" she raved, running both hands through her already unkempt hair. "This is a Nobel-worthy breakthrough. We created a wormhole, an actual wormhole, Hiro." Despite his reserved nature, Hiro's face was lit up with a rare, unguarded joy. He moved to the desk and pushed a button to end the simulation and trigger a controlled shutdown of the cradle's enormous electromagnets. As the humming died down, an awed silence engulfed the lab. Alicia's euphoria wavered as the weight of their achievement sank in. She sank back into the desk chair, staring at the now dormant monitors. "What do we do now?" Hiro asked quietly. Alicia chewed her lip, considering. When she had first started her quantum tunneling research, no one had thought any practical applications were possible. She had mainly been driven by scientific curiosity, too entranced by the puzzle to care what anyone else thought. But now that she had somehow actually created a wormhole, the implications were staggering. This technology could change everything, revolutionize space travel, energy production, maybe even alter the fabric of reality itself. But in the wrong hands, Alicia shuddered at the thought. No, this discovery needed to be handled with great care. She turned to Hiro. "For now, we tell no one. We need time to fully understand what we've created before going public." Hiro nodded solemnly. "Agreed, but the data will need to be closely guarded. Our funding may be private, but interest will be intense once this gets out." Their operation was bankrolled by an anonymous consortium of investors who had granted them complete freedom to pursue pure research. In exchange, any discoveries made in the lab were proprietary assets belonging to the investors. It was an unorthodox arrangement, but it allowed Alicia and Hero to operate without the constraints and red tape of academia. Alicia chewed her lip, considering their options. She finally said, "We should limit remote access and keep all the wormhole data on an isolated server, and no internet connectivity from that system. We'll monitor the cradle 24/7 in rotating shifts." "Very wise precautions," said Hero approvingly. They worked quickly to secure the wormhole data, then settled in to analyze the results of their historic achievement. Over the next 2 weeks, Alicia and Hero took turns scrutinizing the data feeds whenever the cradle was active. They ran countless variations of their quantum field manipulations, gradually learning how to control the wormhole's size, location, and duration. During her shifts, Alicia often caught herself staring in awestruck silence at the shimmering sphere of the wormhole hanging impossibly in the air before flickering out of sight. One evening, while monitoring an experiment alone, Alicia noticed an odd disruption in the wormhole's electromagnetic field readings. She halted the trial and examined the logs but found no obvious system errors. Perplexed, she initiated another wormhole manifestation, keeping a close eye on the EM field monitor. And there it was again, a brief, inexplicable spike in the data. Alicia felt the hairs on her arms rise. Something about the anomaly bothered her on a gut level. It was almost as if the wormhole itself was interacting with the environment. But that seemed impossible. It was just a quantum tunnel through space-time, not an object or entity. Over the next few days, Alicia detected more unexplained fluctuations and spikes associated with the wormhole's stable phase. Late one night, well past midnight, she was reanalyzing the anomalous data streams when her blood ran cold. In one of the readings, she could clearly see a repeating signal buried inside the surrounding noise. 2 low spikes, a brief gap, then a higher spike. It was subtle, but undeniably artificial. "My God," she whispered. "Something is communicating through the wormhole." She forced herself to take calming breaths as her mind raced. Whatever intelligence was on the other side, it had sensed the formation of the wormhole and was now actively probing the opening. Alicia dared not consider what kind of alien civilization could possess such an advanced capability. Were they friendly explorers of science? Hostile conquerors? There was no telling. For the first time since opening the wormhole, Alicia hesitated. While intellectually fascinating, making first contact with an alien race via untested technology was incredibly risky. She wished she could discuss it with Hero, but he was abroad at a tech conference. In his absence, the enormous burden of this discovery weighed heavily on Alicia's shoulders. In that moment, she made her decision. They had opened Pandora's box. Now they had to face the consequences. She staunched a swell of fear, pushed down her doubts, and initiated the cradle startup sequence. They had made the first move, however unintentionally. Now it was time to make contact. The monitor sprang to life as the enormous electromagnets hummed with power. The simulation ran smoothly, and Alicia watched in awe as the shimmering wormhole bloomed into existence. She spent a moment studying its hypnotic, water-like surface. Then she entered a command to activate the quantum entanglement communicator Hero had built into the system. It was time to speak to whoever or whatever was on the other side. Chapter 2: First Contact. Alicia sat rigidly in front of the monitors, locked in a silent stare down with the shimmering wormhole floating ethereally in the cradle chamber. Her finger hovered over the transmit control key, hesitating a moment longer before she pressed it. A rapid burst of quantum-entangled photons containing prime number sequences, a universal mathematical handshake, was instantly conveyed into the wormhole. She had no idea if the message would be intelligible to whoever or whatever was on the other side, but it was a start. Then Alicia waited, body tense, ready to shut everything down at the slightest sign of danger. Long minutes passed. Just as Alicia was about to give up, an anomalous spike appeared on the electromagnetic field monitor. Her breath caught. It was a response. She rapidly decoded the sequence. More prime numbers, but now interleaved with other mathematical constants like pi and Euler's number. A thrill rushed through Alicia's veins. Not only was the entity on the other side sentient, they were openly engaging in communication. Before she could send another message, more spikes and fluctuations appeared on the monitors. Alicia realized with astonishment that the alien intelligence was rapidly cycling through different encodings to establish two-way communication. Within minutes, they settled on using quantum Fourier transforms as the encoding basis. "Remarkable," Alicia whispered, marveling at how effortlessly the entity had established meaningful interaction. She transmitted a simple mathematical function, curious to see how they would respond. Minutes later, a stunning image rendered in intricate wave interference patterns materialized on the monitor. Alicia gasped and instinctively pushed back from the desk. The image showed a perfect overhead view of the lab interior from the perspective of the cradle chamber. "How?" she murmured in shock. Clearly, this alien intelligence possessed incredibly sophisticated sensory capabilities, far beyond any Earth technology. Alicia's mind raced. She had so many questions. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you want? But given the language barrier, how could they possibly have an abstract philosophical conversation? An idea struck her. Walking over to one of the lab whiteboards, she erased some old equations and began drawing diagrams. A schematic of the solar system, showing the sun and orbiting planets with Earth clearly labeled. Next, she sketched the cradle setup, indicating its location on Earth. If she couldn't pose philosophical queries, she could at least try to communicate their respective locations. Returning to the desk, she snapped some photos of the whiteboard with her phone. She attached the images to her next quantum transmission, along with some basic mathematical queries, 1.1 and other simple tests. The surprisingly quick response this time made Alicia chuckle out loud. The entity had drawn a hilarious caricature of a stereotypical alien. Big head, skinny body, huge oval eyes. Clearly, they had a sense of humor. They had also answered all her math questions correctly. Emboldened, Alicia decided to send an image of herself sitting at the desk, waving at the wormhole. Moments later, a new image was displayed, a rough approximation of a three-dimensional being, its thin frame utterly foreign compared to any earthly life form. Alicia shivered with a sudden awareness that she was interacting with an actual extraterrestrial. So began an unlikely dialogue, with Alicia and the alien entity conversing through exchanged images, symbols, and mathematical functions. Within a few hours, they had developed a basic vocabulary using pictograms. Slowly, a rough understanding took shape. The alien, who seemed amused when Alicia nicknamed them Vertex, came from a planet in a distant spiral galaxy. Their civilization possessed technology allowing intergalactic quantum communications and travel through wormholes. But Vertex's transmissions through the cradle wormhole were the first contact they had made with the Milky Way galaxy. Alicia was struck by the potentially enormous ramifications of their breakthrough. Here was irrefutable proof that humans were not alone in the universe, and intelligent life had evolved elsewhere. Our understanding of science, religion, philosophy, everything would be turned upside down. A barrage of messages from Vertex interrupted her musings. Though still limited by communication barriers, the aliens seemed very eager to explore and gather more data about Earth. Almost too eager. A sense of unease stirred in Alicia's gut. What if Vertex and their civilization had malicious intentions once they learned more about humanity's weaknesses? There were so many unknown risks. Alicia stalled Vertex with excuses about needing rest. She terminated communication and shut down the cradle system, her exhilaration fading. This was too big for her to decide alone. She needed the full lab team to weigh in. Pulling out her phone, Alicia sent an emergency text message to Hero and their lead research assistants. Technicians Liz Winters and Dan Reed. "Get back to the lab ASAP," she wrote. "Discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence through the wormhole. Serious implications to discuss." Within a few hours, the entire staff had assembled in the office adjoining the lab. Alicia took a deep breath and brought them up to speed on the startling events. The team listened in stunned disbelief as she described establishing first contact with the alien Vertex. This This changes everything, Harrow said slowly when she had finished, his normally calm demeanor shaken. We opened a doorway to the unknown. Who knows what the consequences could be? I know, believe me, said Alicia. But now that we're in communication with Vertex, we can't just ignore them. We have a responsibility to learn as much as we can and try to anticipate potential impacts. Liz, their hardware specialist, looked thoughtful. We need to be cautious. We know almost nothing about these beings. Advanced technology does not automatically mean benevolent intentions. I agree, but we can't make any assumptions, said Alicia. That's why we need to establish a way to exchange scientific and cultural information openly with Vertex before considering anything else. It's the only responsible move. Dan, the cryptology expert, nodded. We could create a quantum data file exchange protocol. That would allow broader communication without risking direct contact until we learn more. Getting data is one thing, but how do we know it's accurate? Challenged Liz. This could be a reconnaissance mission for them. Hero held up his hands placatingly. I believe we all agree more understanding is necessary. Let us focus on expanding communication while strengthening security precautions. They hammered out a plan to exchange basic scientific and cultural data transmissions with Vertex, cautiously at first. With Dan's help, Alicia insisted on instituting multiple encryption layers to secure their systems. She just hoped they weren't underestimating the mental acuity of their alien conversant. Over the next week, vast amounts of data flowed in both directions as the unprecedented exchange progressed. Alicia pored eagerly over the information Vertex sent, joined by the others during intense analysis sessions. There was a breathtaking star map imagery showing the position of Vertex's home planet and surrounding star systems. Complex mathematical and physical analysis revealed startling insights into the alien race's advanced technology. Most astonishing were the genetic diagrams. Vertex and their species were utterly unique, with an incredible capacity to manipulate quantum information woven into their very cellular structure. In return, Alicia provided diagrams of DNA and the branching tree of life, alongside artwork and music samples reflecting Earth's cultural diversity. She took care to offer only rudimentary information about humanity's society, military capabilities, and technology. There were still too many unknowns to fully trust their new interstellar pen pals. Late one evening, Alicia sat alone scrutinizing a new batch of data from Vertex. She had set one of the browser windows to automatically translate the quantum information into ASCII characters. Glancing through it, she did a double take. Mixed in with the scientific data was a brief message in stilted English. We mean no harm. Stop seeking knowledge. Stop no conquest desired. Stop. Alicia's eyes went wide. Vertex was extending an overture, hoping to convince her of their peaceful intentions. She felt a twinge of guilt recalling Liz's skepticism. While Vertex's capabilities were alarming, Alicia's instincts told her the alien was sincere. But with stakes this high, she needed to be sure. Rapidly typing a reply, Alicia made a proposition she hoped wasn't reckless. Let's meet. Just one representative from your side. We will send a probe through with a real-time comlink. Waiting anxiously for a reply, she wondered if she had just made a foolhardy gamble. What would Hero say? Or the rest of the team? Finally, new data arrived from Vertex. A brief message. We agree. Stop will send ambassador. Stop. Alicia sat back, exhaling slowly. First contact was about to become much more real. There would be no more hiding once an alien envoy stepped on earthly ground. She just prayed their trust would not be misplaced. Chapter 3. The Watchers. Alicia paced the lab office, unable to sit still as the weight of what she had just agreed to fully sank in. An alien ambassador was going to cross through the wormhole, a being from an advanced intergalactic civilization. Setting foot on Earth, it was the realization of a dream and a nightmare rolled into one. Alicia tried to tamp down her nerves and focus on the exciting possibilities. They were about to directly meet an extraterrestrial. Even with the communication limitations, so much could be learned, and it felt profoundly important for humanity to extend trust and goodwill to their first alien visitor. Glancing at her watch, Alicia sighed anxiously. The rest of the staff would be arriving soon, and she would have to explain her reckless plan. Just then, the office door banged open, making Alicia jump. Hero rushed in, looking uncharacteristically frazzled. "Thank God you're all right," he said, moving to squeeze her shoulder. "I came straight from the airport when I got your messages." Alicia quickly recapped the astounding discoveries since establishing communication with Vertex. Hero's eyes went wide behind his glasses as she described the data exchange and subsequent dialogue. "You agreed to let one of them come here?" Hero asked in alarm when she got to that part. "That's incredibly dangerous. We have no idea what sort of entity will emerge from that wormhole." "I know it seems risky," Alicia said placatingly, "but everything we've learned about Vertex indicates peaceful intentions. We can take precautions." Hero sank into a desk chair, rubbing his temples. "This first contact event will be unprecedented. We must be cautious." Just then, Liz and Dan arrived, their expressions tense. Alicia again launched into an explanation of the events with Vertex. The technicians listened gravely, exchanging uneasy glances. "Look, I get the excitement over first contact," said Liz after Alicia finished, "but we're scientists, not diplomats. An alien visitor here completely changed the stakes." Dan nodded. "We need clear protocols in place for how to manage the encounter, and military oversight in case things go south." Alicia hesitated. Every objection was valid, but her intuition was screaming to embrace this chance, dangerous as it seemed. "You both make good points," she acknowledged, "but I really believe we can establish an open, peaceful dialogue with Vertex." "And if you're wrong," challenged Liz. Hero stepped in. "Speculation is pointless right now. Let us focus on making preparations to minimize any risks." They spent the next few hours in tense discussion, hammering out a plan. Hero prepared a sealed quarantine chamber off the main lab area where the alien ambassador would initially be contained. Dan upgraded their network security protocols and configured remote emergency cutoff switches for the cradle system. Liz stockpiled sedatives, medical equipment, and other safety measures. By the time they finished their precautions, Alicia was exhausted, but there was no time for rest. She needed to tell Vertex their location was secure. Sitting down at the messaging terminal, she typed, "We are ready. You may send your ambassador through." Moments later, responses streamed in from the alien intelligences. Alicia's eyes widened in surprise. Based on the messages, there appeared to be multiple Vertex entities coordinating on the other side of the wormhole. They seemed very excited about the imminent encounter. "You will not regret this stop, Ambassador. Vertex will be most honored by this opportunity." Stop. Alicia felt a swell of optimism. Perhaps this really could be a historic moment of trust between civilizations. She went to join the others, eager to share the encouraging news. In the cradle chamber, the team made final adjustments while watching the shimmering wormhole warily. On Hero's signal, Alicia initiated the quantum handshake protocol they had established with the Vertex entities. Signals flickered through the portal, confirming the passage was ready. "Here we go," Alicia murmured. She entered the command to transmit an all-clear message. The team collectively held their breath. For several minutes, the wormhole shimmered silently. Then its smooth surface suddenly rippled, as if disturbed by an otherworldly breeze. A tiny spherical shape, glistening like a metallic bowling ball, emerged and floated gracefully down to rest on the chamber floor. The wormhole faded back to transparency behind it. "Is that the ambassador?" Liz whispered. Alicia just shook her head, as stunned as the rest of them. The sphere appeared to be a miniaturized robotic probe. As they watched, its surface separated into distinct plates which slid over each other like a three-dimensional puzzle box. After a minute, the plates smoothly retracted to reveal a small silicone-textured humanoid figure sitting cross-legged inside the probe. Its egg-shaped head rotated to gaze curiously around the chamber. Despite herself, Alicia smiled. "It's Vertex, or at least an avatar controlled by Vertex. Pretty ingenious method for crossing over." Hero nodded, though his posture remained wary. "Let us proceed carefully and limit physical interaction until we can confirm there are no hidden surprises." They ushered the probe containing the Vertex avatar into the sealed quarantine room. The entity calmly cooperated as Hero ran scanning equipment over its container from outside, checking for anomalies. Finally, he gave the all clear. Alicia entered the chamber and approached the probe where it sat on a plinth. Kneeling down, she made eye contact with the avatar. It blinked placidly back with large oval-shaped eyes, eerily similar to the cartoon Alicia herself had drawn early in their communication. "Hello, Vertex," she said slowly. "I'm Dr. Alicia Ruiz. Thank you for coming." The avatar remained still, silently observing her. Of course, with no atmosphere, it couldn't actually speak. Alicia activated the chamber's control panel, which included a rudimentary text chat app they had rigged up. "Greetings, Dr. Ruiz," the avatar typed out with its spindly, robotic fingers. "I am Ambassador Vertex. I am most pleased to make your acquaintance." Alicia smiled. "The honor is mine. I look forward to learning more about your civilization." "Me as well. Perhaps we could tour your facilities." Alicia hesitated. "Let's start slow. We have time. I'm still helping my colleagues understand all this." "I understand. Caution is wise when building trust." Alicia breathed a sigh of relief. First contact was proceeding smoothly so far. The avatar posed no obvious danger, and its calm demeanor and desire for knowledge rather than conquest was encouraging. She pulled over a chair to sit with the intriguing extraterrestrial visitor. Over the next few hours, Alicia and Vertex had a stilted but captivating chat. The ambassador was fascinated by every mundane detail Alicia provided about human biology, culture, and Earth's environment. Its initial prim formality faded as they found common ground in their shared scientific curiosity. Alicia was just describing music in the arts when a high-priority alarm suddenly blared from the lab speakers. She jumped to her feet in dismay. That sound meant the wormhole had become dangerously unstable. "Wait here and remain calm," she urged Vertex. "I need to check the cradle systems." The avatar blinked placidly as Alicia rushed from the room. In the lab, warning lights were strobing atop the cradle chamber. Hero and the technicians were desperately trying to stabilize the writhing wormhole as violent energy spikes erupted from its surface. "What's causing this?" Alicia yelled over the din. "We don't know," Liz shouted back. "It's almost like something is modulating the wormhole environment from the other side." She broke off with a choked gasp. Alicia felt her blood turn to ice. They all came to the same horrific realization at once. Vertex's extraterrestrial companions were still out there, with unfathomable technologies and unknown motivations. This could be a coordinated attack. "We need to shut it down now," Hero barked. Liz lunged for the emergency kill switch. But as she threw it, a crackling tendril of energy lashed out from the wormhole, destroying the controls in a shower of sparks. They were trapped, at the mercy of the entities on the other side. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the chaotic wormhole activity ceased. The silence ringing in its wake was almost more frightening. Alicia stared at the now deceptively calm portal, its surface smoothly undulating as if nothing had happened. What did this mean for the innocent ambassador waiting patiently in the quarantine room? Hero voiced the thought they were all sharing. "I believe we must ask our visitor to leave. We opened the door in friendship, but this no longer feels welcoming." Alicia sighed, hating the idea of severing their connections so abruptly. But Hero was right. They had clearly underestimated the potential dangers. With a heavy heart, Alicia went to inform Vertex its visit must end early. But the little avatar showed no surprise or objection to being expelled back through the wormhole. "I understand completely," it typed politely. "Security is paramount. We will ensure no further instability occurs. Please keep your wormhole open so we may continue dialogue." Alicia wished she could share its optimism. They had tried extending trust and been rewarded with what felt like a veiled threat. As the sphere containing the avatar floated back into the wormhole's shimmering folds, Alicia feared this may be their last direct interaction with the enigmatic Vertex civilization. Over the next week, the lab team kept the cradle running with only passive monitoring. They continued receiving data bursts from Vertex, again mainly focused on scientific and cultural information. But Alicia noticed curiosities, subtle manipulations of the quantum encoding frequencies, brief, hidden messages buried under layers of encryption. It seemed Vertex was determined to keep communication open between their worlds. Late one night, Alicia sat alone scrutinizing the latest data batch. She had set up an algorithm to analyze the quantum noise profile of the transmissions. As the results came in, her eyes went wide. There was a pattern, a repeating sequence of oscillations masking a compressed underlying signal. Her hands shook slightly as she extracted and decoded the hidden message. It was text in stilted English. Dr. Ruiz, we apologize for the wormhole disruption. Certain members of our order sought to test your capabilities, but they have been censured. We continue to hold your world in high esteem. Please do not judge us harshly for this transgression. We hope you will trust us with further exchange. Alicia sat back heavily. This confirmed the instability had been a deliberate provocation by some faction of Vertex's civilization. Yet the tone was clearly conciliatory. She wished the entire team was present to discuss this revelation. At that moment, her phone chimed with an incoming message from Hero. "You need to see this," was all it said. Alicia rushed to find Hero in the lab. He stood before a large display showing a visualization of the wormhole interior. He glanced at Alicia grimly as she came to stand beside him. "I detected unusual gravitational fluctuations within the wormhole, so I ran an imaging reconstruction," he explained. As Alicia watched, Hero cycled through a series of rendered frames. They revealed a shadowy, indistinct form passing through the wormhole. It had the same basic silhouette as the spherical probes the Vertex entities seemed to favor. But this one was different, larger, bristling with unidentifiable protuberances. Alicia's mouth went dry. "When was this?" "During the instability incident," said Hero. "It is subtle, but this probe has distinctive electromagnetic and quantum wave traces. I believe it represents a technology not yet shared with us by Vertex." "You're saying they sent an undeclared probe through the wormhole? For what purpose?" Hero crossed his arms. "Based on the timing, I would guess covert reconnaissance. We know nothing of their true agenda." Alicia bowed her head in frustration. After the message she had uncovered, part of her wanted to still believe the best of Vertex's intentions. But this new evidence was impossible to ignore. "So where do we go from here?" she finally asked. Hero turned to her, his expression resolute. "We cannot take further risks. It is time we look through their portal and see what is on the other side." Chapter 4. Through the Looking Glass. Alicia rubbed her temples wearily as she reviewed the data from their secret reconnaissance mission for the 100th time. It had been a sleepless week since Hero's discovery prompted them to finally send their own probe through the wormhole without Vertex's knowledge. The glimpses of the alien society on the other side had left more questions than answers. Vertex's world was utterly foreign, with swirling ethereal megastructures and technologies far beyond human comprehension. Despite this, in some ways their civilization seemed almost idyllic. No war, poverty, or environmental degradation visible. Yet Alicia felt increasingly uneasy. Beneath a harmonious facade, there were hints of darkness. Underground complexes bristling with unidentified machinery, data streams brimming with heavily encrypted content. What were they hiding from their new human contacts? Alicia sighed and pushed back from the desk, rubbing gritty eyes. She should try to get some rest, but every time she closed her eyes, her mind spun with speculation about Vertex's true plans and motivations. Her phone buzzed, an urgent summons to meet Hero and the others topside. As she ascended in the elevator, Alicia tried to ignore her growing sense of foreboding. Things had been strange since the probe mission. Vertex's data transmissions had become erratic, while the rest of the team was oddly tight-lipped whenever she was around. When Alicia stepped out into the night, her unease deepened. The lab's flat roof was now dominated by a sleek, geodesic dome structure that certainly hadn't been there before. "What is this?" she asked Hero as she approached the others by the dome entrance. "A necessary security precaution," Liz responded before Hero could answer, "to shield our systems from prying eyes." Alicia eyed the dome's metallic skin, gleaming faintly with electronic countermeasures. "What do you mean? Has someone been spying on us?" Again, Hero hesitated, but Dan spoke up. "A few days ago, we noticed satellite reconnaissance of the lab had intensified. We're fairly certain multiple international agencies are now monitoring us. Alicia felt her stomach drop. Of course, their work had gotten too big to stay off the radar forever. Have any government reps tried to make contact? Not yet, said Hero. But such an intervention may not be far off. We believe certain stakeholders will seek to leverage the cradle technology for their own agendas. Alicia raked a hand through her hair in agitation. The last thing they needed was for Earth's geopolitical mess to complicate things further. Okay, what can we do? Hero stepped closer, dropping his voice. Liz has obtained something which could provide us more control over the situation. He nodded to Liz, who unzipped a nondescript case at her feet. Nestled inside was unmistakably an advanced laser sidearm. Alicia's jaw dropped open. Is that what I think it is? That's beyond illegal. How did you get access to military grade? I have contacts from certain past R&D gigs, Liz interrupted coolly. Don't worry about the details. We may need some leverage if external parties try appropriating the cradle. Whoa, hold on. Alicia held up both hands. We're scientists, not militants. Hero, you can't actually be considering using that weapon against... Not at all, Hero cut in, but as a deterrent for protection. He rested a hand on Liz's shoulder, almost paternally. Alicia felt suddenly excluded as the rest of the team shared loaded glances. Just then, Dan cleared his throat. I'll, go keep watch below. Without meeting Alicia's eyes, he slipped back inside. A leaden feeling settled in Alicia's gut. She studied Liz and Hero as if seeing them clearly for the first time. The company they'd been keeping was changing them, and not for the better. What had happened to the pure scientists who wanted to change the world through discovery alone? How about we all get some rest and discuss this with fresh eyes tomorrow? She proposed gently. Whatever happens next, we should decide together as a team. Hero and Liz murmured agreement. As they headed back inside, Alicia lingered a moment, gazing up at the gleaming security dome, now shielding their clandestine endeavors. She had to find a way to pull them back from this precipice before everything spun out of control. Over the next few days, Alicia tread cautiously, keenly aware she was now on the outside looking in within her own team. Hero and Liz were deep in secret preparations for an unspecified scenario, while Dan acted twitchy and evasive. The cradle remained active, though, so Alicia kept analyzing Vertex's intermittent cryptic data bursts, searching for anything useful. Late one night, she detected a hidden compressed file embedded with a seemingly junk data transmission. Her eyes went wide as she extracted and opened it. It was a video file. The shaky footage had been captured by her reconnaissance probe just before Vertex security overwhelmed its systems. But in those precious few minutes, it revealed a secret cavernous space deep within the alien's capital megastructure. Strange machinery and sarcophagus-like encasements lined the shadowy interior. Then Alicia choked back a horrified gasp. As the probe panned, it showed rows of motionless humanoid figures, floating in glass cylinders like specimens. They appeared almost identical to Vertex's avatar form, except their slender bodies were riddled with grotesque surgical alterations, injecting thick conduits directly into flesh. Alicia clasped both hands over her mouth, bile rising in her throat. What unfathomable nightmare had their probe uncovered? This changed everything. Vertex had lied, betrayed their trust in the worst possible way. All the talk of sharing knowledge and collaboration was a facade. Humans were just lab rats to be probed and exploited. Alicia's first panicked impulse was to rush and tell the others. But she hesitated, thinking of Liz's militant shift and Hero's complicity. They had to strategize this revelation carefully. Out of habit, she typed a brief, encrypted message to Vertex, requesting an explanation, though she expected no real response. Shutting everything down, Alicia grabbed the video file and fled the lab, heading upstairs to clear her head and decide on a plan. Emerging into the night air, Alicia was startled to find Hero alone on the roof, staring pensively at the shimmering wormhole through the dome's transparent ceiling. Before she could retreat, he turned and noticed her. "Alicia, I am glad you're here," Hero said solemnly. "I believe it is time we talked." Cautiously, she joined him by the dome. "What's going on? Where are Liz and Dan?" Hero clasped his hands behind his back. "They are otherwise occupied. I wish to speak with you privately about the future. Alicia crossed her arms. Okay, I'm listening. For some time now, relations with Vertex have been deteriorating, Harrow said. But Liz has proposed a solution which could break the impasse. Alicia's eyes narrowed. What solution? Using the laser system to send a warning through the wormhole, said Hero calmly, to show we will not be intimidated by their advanced technology. Alicia's jaw dropped. What? Hero, that's insane! We can't go around firing weapons through an interdimensional portal. We must demonstrate strength, Hero responded with sudden heat. You are too naive. Vertex only pretends peaceful intentions while pursuing their own hidden agenda. Alicia held up both hands entreatingly. Listen to yourself, and listen to me. I found undeniable proof Vertex has betrayed us. But violence will only make this worse. She quickly summarized the ghastly video file's revelations. Hero's eyes widened for a moment, but his expression remained resolute. This merely confirms they see humanity as inferior beings to manipulate as they wish, he said coldly. We must stand our ground. He turned toward the dome exit. Alicia grabbed his arm in desperation. Don't do this. We have to be better than them. Hero shook her off almost violently. Seething, he stalked away without another word. Alicia considered trigger the emergency lock at Chong, but Hero had all the protocols. Heart pounding, she could only watch helplessly as he entered the dome and descended into the lab. There was no telling what Liz had enabled down there. She pulled out her phone to call emergency services, though she knew it was likely futile. Sure enough, minutes later, a muffled tune resonated up from the lab, accompanied by the crackle of arcing electricity and tripped breakers. Alicia froze in dismay and disbelief. After everything they'd worked for together, Hero had actually fired a destructive energy pulse into the wormhole. What unfathomable damage had he wrought across unimaginable distances? Before Alicia could even begin processing the shock and horror of Hero's act, an ear-splitting alarm blared from the lab below. A robotic evacuation message began broadcasting, ordering all personnel to exit immediately. Heart in her throat, Alicia rushed downstairs to find utter chaos. Acrid smoke was spewing from the warped doors of the cradle chamber. The entire floor was littered with shards of shattered glass and electronics. What looked like a laser blast had slagged straight through the observation window and into the quantum core. Coughing violently, Alicia staggered through the destruction, but found no sign of Hero or the others. They must have already fled. She followed emergency lighting toward the exit, mind reeling with questions. Had Hero's attack triggered some self-destruct failsafe? Or had Vertex themselves lashed back through the ravaged wormhole? Just as Alicia neared the exit stairwell, a series of resonant thuds echoed through the facility, the sound of heavy boots descending toward the compromised lab. A squad of black-clad soldiers wielding rifles poured into the corridor, forcing Alicia to her knees with shouts of, "Hands up!" As the operatives roughly zip-tied her hands, Alicia bowed her head in despair. Of course, Vertex's betrayals had stayed secret until it was too late. Now the lab was breached, the wormhole possibly destroyed, and they had no idea what dark plans were already in motion on the other side. Chapter 5. The Closure. Alicia sat motionless on a bare cot in her cell, replaying the chaotic disaster after Hero's attack over and over. She had warned him communication was the only responsible path forward. Instead, he had given in to fear and mistrust, trying to resolve the conflict with the Vertex entities through violence. And now everything was at risk: their research, the fragile trust between worlds, maybe even the very fate of humanity. The heavily secured facility where Alicia was now imprisoned had been her home in recent weeks, after she and the team were taken into custody following the wormhole calamity. Alicia still didn't know what exactly had happened in those critical moments. Had Vertex perceived Hero's hostility as an act of war and retaliated? Or had the damage been confined to the human side for now? Her captors had provided no real information yet. A buzz at the door announced meal delivery. Alicia ignored the tray that was shoved through the slot, too consumed with dread to eat. Since being detained, she had urgently requested a chance to speak on the situation, to somehow make amends, or at least find out more. But her pleas had been ignored so far. Finally, her cell door swung open. Two soldiers entered, guns drawn, accompanied by a severe woman in a lab coat, Dr. Olivia Hill, the complex director. Her expression was grim. "Dr. Ruiz, you've asked to be briefed on the wormhole situation. My superiors have now granted permission." Alicia slowly rose to her feet. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She had to make them understand before things spiraled even further out of control. "Dr. Hill, we made a terrible mistake," she said fervently. "Our team was blinded by fear of the unknown, but I truly believe we can still resolve this peacefully." "That's enough," Dr. Hill cut in. She nodded to the guards who grabbed Alicia's arms in a vice-like grip. "You're not being brought up to speed for a philosophical chat. You have work to do." The realization struck Alicia like a gut punch. Of course they wouldn't care about her opinions. She was merely a tool to them, a means to control and exploit the technology she had helped create. Dr. Hill turned and strode briskly down the hall, forcing Alicia and the guards to jog to keep up. As they passed through checkpoints and descended secure stairwells, Alicia felt her pulse quicken further. Were they taking her to the cradle? What did they expect her to do here that could possibly make up for the violence her team had unleashed? After an escorted walk through a maze of corridors, the group finally entered a cavernous space. Alicia's eyes went wide. It was a vastly enlarged version of their original laboratory, built around an enormous cradle chamber. Teams of technicians scurried around monitors displaying complex anomalous energy readouts. In the chamber itself, visible through thick plexiglass windows, the air seemed to ripple and flow like a raging river. But at the heart of the churning energy soup, a familiar shimmering sphere hovered. Alicia's ingeniously designed wormhole creation, violently unstable, but somehow still intact. Dr. Hill noted her shocked expression. "Impressive, isn't it? The moment we decrypted your lab data, our engineers constructed this scaled-up version. It took heavy shielding to contain the chaotic quantum effects." She turned to Alicia, her tone icy. "Ever since your colleague decided to attack our new intergalactic contacts, the entity Vertex has been aggressively manipulating the wormhole from their side. It is on the verge of collapsing with potentially catastrophic universal effects." Alicia stared in dismay at the roiling wormhole. So her worst fears had come true. Hero's aggression had ignited an intergalactic conflict. Dr. Hill continued severely. "You created this technology. Make it safe again so we can reopen diplomatic channels." Head bowed in shame, Alicia let herself be led into an adjacent lab packed with sophisticated computing equipment. Her pulse pounded as she sat at the control terminal. This was the chance she had been waiting for, however slim the odds. Taking a deep breath, Alicia initialized the quantum message transmitter linking to the wormhole. She had to try reaching Vertex one last time. Her fingers flew as she typed out an entreaty. "This is Dr. Alicia Ruiz. I apologize for the unprovoked attack. It does not represent humanity. I beg you not to let the mistakes of a few erase all possibility of trust and mutual understanding between our people." Hands trembling, she transmitted the message through the imperiled wormhole. The scientists clustered in the observation room, stared intently at their instruments. But there was no obvious response. Suddenly, one monitor flared with activity. Alicia drew in a sharp breath. Vertex was sending a transmission back. She frantically decoded the sequence, then sat back heavily. It was just 2 words. Too late. The ripples flowing across the wormhole began oscillating faster, resonating dangerously. Alarms cried out as the energy levels climbed exponentially. On the monitors, space-time metrics were distorting into impossible configurations. "It's going to collapse," someone shouted. "Get to the blast shelters now!" Technicians dropped everything and rushed to evacuate. But Alicia remained transfixed with horror as the wormhole's smooth surface began cracking apart like shattered glass. This was the end, not just of their hopes for connection, but of the universe itself. Amidst the chaos, Alicia's eyes were drawn to one monitor showing the entity Vertex's last cryptic message. Too late. Too late for what? Understanding clicked into place. "Wait, stop!" she cried, rushing to activate the transmitter again. Dr. Hill and the guards hesitated in the doorway. Alicia's hands flew as she typed a new message to Vertex. You knew this could happen if we misused the technology. You tried to warn us subtly. Please, give us another chance. Help me stabilize the wormhole before it is too late. Holding her breath, she transmitted the entreaty. For agonizing seconds, nothing changed. Then one of the anomalous energy spikes abruptly flattened. The deterioration slowed, then halted. Readings stabilized back to dangerous but non-critical levels. Alicia nearly collapsed in relief. By responding with explanation rather than accusations, she had gotten through to Vertex. The entities were not blinded by rage or vengeance. They still believed humanity capable of wisdom, if given one final opportunity. Smiling through sudden tears, Alicia typed a heartfelt message of thanks to her alien counterparts. Their response, when it came, was poignant. You have demonstrated hope and compassion when it mattered most. For this we will forgive your trespasses. But now we must shut the door, until your world is ready to walk peacefully among the stars. Alicia bowed her head, unexpectedly overcome with emotion. It hurt to lose the connection forever, but she knew Vertex was right. Humanity still had much learning and maturing to do before they were ethically ready to explore cosmic truths. Silently, she transmitted a message of agreement and respects. The Vertex entities worked rapidly with her through the link, implementing controlled shutdown sequences for the wormhole. Soon the spherical portal began to contract, warping in upon itself as the constituent exotic particles were safely retuned to mundane states. Within minutes, the wondrous and dangerous bridge between their worlds vanished like it had never existed in the first place. Only fading ghost images on the monitors remained as evidence. A solemn silence reigned. At long last, Alicia stood and turned to face Dr. Hill and the guards. They stared back warily. Alicia sighed, suddenly feeling very tired. It's done. The wormhole won't be opening again. I know you'll want to debrief me on the alien messages and technology. But please, no more secrecy and misguided agendas this time. That's the only way we'll be ready when the chance comes again. Dr. Hill's expression was unreadable, but Alicia could see the gleam of hunger in the intelligence agent's eyes. There was no guarantee humanity would live up to the moral challenge they now faced, but she had to try and guide them, one small, brave step at a time. Squaring her shoulders, she followed Dr. Hill out of the lab to face an uncertain future. For better or worse, Earth now knew conclusively that they were not alone in this vast cosmos, and the day would come when the slumbering wormhole might awaken once again, either as a new dawn or final sunset for humanity.